There we go. Now what we want to do is move on to bore sighting. First thing we'll do is find the mechanical zero of the scope. Now the scopes from the factory are already mechanically zeroed, but you want to check them anyway. And to do this we use a mirror. If you don't have a mirror, you can do this to the scope before you mount it up, but the concept is still the same. Press the mirror against the objective of the scope, and we're going to look down through the scope, and we'll see two images of the reticle. We'll see the reticle, and then we'll see a reflection of the reticle off of the mirror. We simply want to make sure that those two reticles are in alignment with each other. And we'll do that by moving the windage and elevation adjustment. So moving the windage and elevation, you're going to see one of those reticles move around, align it with the other, and you have a mechanical zero on the scope. Once we do that, we're going to bore sight. There's many different ways of bore sighting. Today we're going to use a Leupold 0-point magnetic illuminated bore sighter. We simply place that on the end of the barrel and align it as close as possible to the height of the scope. And it's not critical that it be exact. Try to get it in the middle of the barrel. Again, I just use my fingertips to get it as close as possible. And then I'm going to look down through the scope, and I can see the grid of the bore sighter as I look through the scope, and I'm seeing it's a little bit crooked, so I'll just tweak it a little bit. None of these alignments are critical. You get it as close as possible, it's going to be fine. Now, once I have that done, the reason why we mechanically centered the scope is now when we look into the magnetic bore sighter, we see a grid in there. I can see because this rifle is pretty well zeroed that it's in the middle of that grid. It's pretty close to the center. If we were a long ways off to one side or the other on that grid, we would either want to use the windage screws, loosening one and tightening the other to force the scope right or left if it's a windage problem, or shimming underneath the base, between the base and the receiver if it's an elevation problem. We want to use one of those methods to get rid of any gross windage or elevation issues that we have. So we do that. Once we do that, we get as close to the center of the bore sighter as possible. We use the windage and elevation adjustments to make the final fine adjustments to the center of the grid on the bore sighter. So if we're looking through the scope while we make these adjustments, you're going to see that the reticle is going to move opposite of the rotation of the dial. If I turn this dial up, the reticle is going to move down. That's perfectly normal. You're moving the image inside the scope, not the reticle. And once you got that done, and you made that final adjustment, now you are bore sighted and ready to go to the range and do your final sight in. Now, one final thought I might leave you with when you go out to the range is what we call the one-shot sight-in method. This consists of going to the range and sandbagging the rifle at 100 yards and taking one shot at the target, at the bullseye. Now, if you're real lucky, you're going to be totally sighted in and ready to go from there, but most likely it's going to be a little bit off of the bullseye. If that's the case, then what you'll want to do is sandbag the rifle back in, point it in at 100 yards back at the bullseye, and not moving the rifle but moving the adjustments in the scope, you'll want to move the reticle to the bullet impact. So in other words, use your windage and elevation to move where the rifle scope is pointed at the bullseye and move the rifle scope's aiming point to the bullet impact. This is going to bring an alignment to where the barrel's pointed and where the reticle's pointed in the scope. Once you got those two lined up together, your rifle's sighted in and ready to go. So, hope you have fun with that. Good luck, and thanks for watching.